Welcome to the Hollis Chapman Show, where we celebrate the power of words and the beauty of storytelling. Join us on this journey as we delve into the minds of successful authors and small business owners who have mastered the art of crafting captivating narratives that inspire, educate, and entertain. Prepare to be inspired as we explore the boundless possibilities that come from sharing stories and experiences that shape our lives and ignite our passions. Through heartfelt conversations and insightful discussions, we uncover the wisdom and creativity that fuel these incredible individuals in their pursuit of greatness. So grab a cup of coffee, settle in, and let the magic of storytelling transport you to new worlds and perspectives. Get ready to be inspired, informed, and uplifted as we embark on this storytelling journey together. Stay tuned for an episode filled with wisdom, inspiration, and the power of words. Welcome to the Hollis Chapman Show. Say where stories come alive. Let's begin this adventure together. Don't miss out on the opportunity to connect with some of the most talented and compelling voices in literature today. Tune in and let the journey begin.
Hey, welcome to the Hollis Chapman Show. Happy Friday, everyone. Hope everybody had a great week. We're very excited to have our guest here from the North with us today. Our special guest lives with his wife and puppy in Vancouver, our wonderful friends from the North. He teaches undergraduate business courses at a local university and research organizational wisdom. Let's welcome to the show our very special coffee addict, Dr. Brad C. Anderson. Welcome, sir.
Hey, thanks for having me. Nice to meet you, Hollis.
Nice meeting you. And let me ask you, you're standing up. Does that really help? Because I'm thinking about, okay, they say it helps a lot. Does it really help?
You want to know what? It's an illusion. I am actually sitting, but it's like one of those designed by a physiotherapist kind of a chair that forces you to have good posture whether you like it or not.
Okay.
So it's kind of a cool chair.
Okay, it is. Yeah. I thought sure you were standing up. That's great. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so tell us more about yourself, sir. I know you were in the biotech sector for a little bit.
Yeah.
Making drugs legally, so that was
Like,
really cool. So tell us more
what's
about
with
yourself. Go ahead, sir. Tell us more and tell us about your new book.
Yeah, you bet. So me, I guess I've worn a couple of hats in my day. I started off my life in the biotech industry. I used to make drugs for a living, for real, like legit. My background was originally in the sciences, but back in the early 2000s, I joined the dark side and I got an MBA and I started to get into the business side of things. And now I'm actually a business prof, which is a weird, sort of flip-flop of, it's like, wow, it's interesting the roads that life takes you down. So yeah, I started off as a science guy and now I teach business, which is weird. I'm also a science fiction author. I write my most recent book, AShme Song. I've been just writing since I could remember. It's just always been how things have kind of come out of me, and that's kind of what brings me to where I am today. A proud puppy owner, as you say, coffee addict. So just looking for my next fix.
Beautiful. Hey, tell us more about the title of your newest book, AShme Song, because I really it threw me off. I didn't research it, but I wanted you to tell us more about it so when people do see it, they kind of understand the title.
Yeah. So AShme is the main character, is one of the main characters of the book, and so AShme Song. So on the surface, it's just a name, and you're like, hey, cool, it's just a name. But I know I like it's. I find like that name has a bunch of different levels, sort of the further you get into the story. So one of the characters, her brother's name is Shen, and her brother has some developmental disabilities. And one of the facets of this particular disability that her brother has is, although he has a lot of physical and mental deficits, he's sort of this musical prodigy. Like, he loves music, right? And so this is like a legit not a disease, but a legit genetic condition that some people have. And so her brother has this, and so has this absolute love for music. And so on the one hand, it's sort of first level, like AShme Song. This is a story about AShme and her brother. It's sort of this brother-sister relationship between them. And so this reference to music is kind of how this character Shen, experiences the world, that's sort of through music, that his emotions happen. So there's that sort of one level. As the story progresses, and I don't want to, like, I'm getting a little bit into spoiler alerts, but like as the story progresses, Shen learns certain, I know, truths about life, and his way of understanding some of these deeper meanings about life are connected to music, right? So as the story progresses, it's not just sort of the title AShme song isn't just about, this character AShme, although it is. It isn't just about this relationship and the love that the brother and the sister have, although it is. It also sort of takes on this meaning of, like life and existence, and this is a story of AShme's life, like meaning in life. So as you sort of get through the story and you learn and you see these characters develop, the title of the book, I think, sort of picks up different and more deeper meanings as you go along. So
Okay, thank you. Okay, in your book, you explore the emotional toll of civil war on family relationships. Can you share a personal experience or observation that inspired this portrayal?
yeah, sure. So I've disclosure alert. I've never lived through a civil war. Knock on wood. That I'll never have to. Knock on wood. But yeah, the spark for this book came way back in the early, sort of mid 20 teens. So real world events were going on. This was the time of the Syrian refugee crisis, right? And so there, at this time, there's these, not armies, but like these like vast lines, like, millions of Syrian refugees pouring into Europe, pouring into America, like just trying to get out of Syria. And I remember there are certain news outlets, of certain political persuasions that were, they look at these, they have these pictures of these, big chains of refugees, coming into countries, and they pointed out like, oh, there's all these young men, that are in these refugee camps, and it's like these young men shouldn't be coming to our country as refugees. They should be staying in their home country and fighting for their country. And it got me thinking, like, on the one hand, like, yeah, you do need people who have the courage to stand up and fight for what's right. But on the other hand, it's all like, if your society is collapsing into civil war, is it any less heroic to take your family and like get them out of there, get them to safety? Like, what is the heroic like, yeah, you need people to stand up and fight, but you also need people to like take your family and get them to safety. And like that's one of those, like, I don't think there's a right answer to that. If there is a right answer to that, I'm not smart enough to figure it out. But I wanted to explore that tension, like that thought process, feeling that tension was like, yeah, what is actually heroic? Like, I think somebody who grabs their family and tries to get to safety is every bit as heroic as somebody who, wants to stand up and fight for their family and for their community. And so that's kind of where the character of AShme was born, because AShme is torn. Like, she has this brother who has special needs, and she's the caretaker of her brother. But she's this young woman, and her society is collapsing into civil war, and she has certain unique gifts and skills that could add value to her. And she wants to be a hero, like her father was a hero. Her father fought in the previous war, and she wanted to be a hero. She wants all these things. She feels she can contribute, but she has this brother that she needs to care for. And so the story really focuses on that tension between, should I stand up and fight, or should I take my family and get out of here? That's kind of where that was the impetus for the story.
Thank you for sharing that. To me, as I think, because we got things going on right now in our country, I'm not going in the world, excuse me, from Ukraine plus Iran, and to me personally, with my child, yeah, I'll move him out of there. I'll get him out of there. Don't it comes down to, if I go back and help, that's okay, it's a different story. But my child is going to go. He's out of there. I'm getting him out of there. So you can think of me whatever you want, but he's getting out of there. And you see these stories where, oh, this civilian got killed, this civilian got killed. It kind of breaks your heart. Nothing to do with it. But because they have no else place to go, they kind of stay, and it kind of breaks your heart. So, if you got to move your family, move your family.
Your family, and and so I did, as I'm researching this, and I'm researching the, like the lives of refugees in refugee camps and things like that. I mean, it's like being a refugee is dangerous as hell. Like when you look at the reality of refugee camps, like, I mean, it is a tenuous existence. So it's not like it's not necessarily a safe choice, right? You're like both of these options are bad choices. What's the least bad choice, or what's the thing that I need to do to achieve the best good that I can, right? That's like it's yeah.
Well said. Well said. Okay, resistance and rebellion are often romanticized in literature. How do you navigate these themes in your character's journey? So you look at it, you may see something on TV, you may read something, and it's like, oh, okay, that's kind of sexy, that's kind of cool. But
Yeah.
as you do your research, you kind of know the difference. You know it, well, that's not really true. They left
Yeah.
out some stories. How did you sit there and put together your book, but you kind of make it juicy too? Can you kind of
Yeah.
give us a little tip on that? Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll see. Yeah, that's a fantastic question. And I remember in my early days of writing, I was like young, and I'm like, oh, it's going to be like action adventure. And I remember I was writing this one story when I was really young, and it's like, yeah, it's all action adventure, and there's war and there's fighting and stuff like that. And then, I went to university. Like, I put the story on the side and went to university, got a career, and years later I came back to it, and I finished it. But as I'm finishing it, like I'm a middle, I wasn't middle aged there, but I like at that time I'm in my 30s, and I'd seen, I'm like war isn't like people suffer, like families get ripped apart, and I was like, how can I write this fun, lighthearted story when there's like because war isn't fun and lighthearted. So in this story here, yeah, but you're right. Like, there is this romanticize, like, we romanticize, war and fighting and conflict and resistance and things like that. And so in this story here, right, on the one hand, like, the character AShme, like she does romanticize it. Like, so I that that is a part of the lure for her to want to, stand up and fight and be part of this rebellion, right? Like, her father fought in the previous war and was considered a hero, right? Came back a hero. And she's like, I want to be like that. I want to be like my dad, right? But as the story progresses, right, I try to, in this story here, I focused on the toll on families, the toll on the family, the toll on the family, the toll on the people, right? So, as you're flashing back and you learn more about AShme and her childhood, you kind of see, like, when her father came back, her father had like horrible PTSD and like wasn't the same man, like, and it kind of like broke the family. And you see also the tension here, like, as her current society is breaking down into civil war. You see, like, she feels like the danger for her brother, as well as, she's got this like great grandmother and stuff like that, and like they're in danger, like they got no place to go. Like, there's mobs outside of her of her home. They have to leave. They have to flee, and just sort of like looking at the impact and how that sort of wrecks families, or the impact of families. They also travel and they see refugee camps, and just like the reality of that. Just, yeah. So on the one hand, like, how did I handle it? The romanticization of conflict and resistance is real, and that is really kind of what drew the character AShme into this in the first place. But then as the story progresses, just, focusing on the impact on families. I kind of focused on the impact on families on this one, and just how it, how it can tear families apart, and even if it doesn't tear families apart, how it can just rip a big chunk out of them.
Dr. Anderson, thank you for sharing that. I'm a veteran, U.S. Navy here in the United States, and when I got out, I didn't go to the VA. I didn't go, and because they say the first thing you do is go to the VA, sign in, just get yourself into the system. I didn't do that. Why? Because I wasn't missing a limb. I was not missing an arm, so I felt bad walking in there. So I didn't go for years until I started getting some health concerns. So I finally went there, and the doctor goes, well, why'd you take you 10 years to get here? I go, well, I have my two limbs. I have my arms and legs. And I go, no, you can go and be preventive. You can go, and they said, you served, you earned this, you should be here. So, ever since then, it's been like 15 years. If I got an appointment, I don't miss. I don't be late. I go because again, they're there to help you. You
Yeah.
know, we
Yeah.
serve, we got it, stuff like that. So what it does in family, it does a lot. I mean, I have a son who helps me out, stuff like that. You know, I've had my colon cancer screening last month and stuff like that, and so I've had things checked and I've been good. But sometimes we don't educate people well enough to make them understand the whole process. You know, and that's
Abs-
what I had to learn. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, and men have I think men particularly are resistant to go to doctors. Like we're the, and I'm the same way. And I find like you kind of mentioned family. I think family is important to everyone, but I think it really helps men because you're like yeah I should go to the doctor. Like bad things can happen to me. I should go to the doctor and make sure that this. And I find, for me, my tendency is like, this isn't, I can walk this off. But then, my wife is like, like that ain't normal. You should get that checked out, right? And like if I was on my own, I would
Yeah,
probably just progress. But,
yeah,
because I got in the family, they're like, that ain't normal. You should do something about that. And you're like, yeah,
very good. Okay, your book, Cyberpunk, setting
yes.
on your book provides a backdrop for exploring contemporary issues. How do you futuristic lens allows readers to engage with what you've written about? You know, how do you? A lot of stuff we can kind of futurize this. You know, we got to deal with the AI stuff, that future, and all those kind of things like that. So, how did you kind of put all that together?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, one of the things I think, one of the benefits, or one of the things that science fiction does is it can allow us to, engage in modern day societal issues in an objective way, right? And what do I mean by that? I mean, like, if I was to set the story, I could have, the story of like, hey, a society breaking down into civil war. Like, there are lots of examples, real world, right now that I could have set that story in. That would have been a real world story. The problem with, I think one of the challenges of writing something in the modern day real world is that readers would come to that with their own baggage, like with their own, like if I like, okay, we're going to set this in Iran. Anybody who reads that in 2026 is going to come to that story with some preconceived, like they won't come to it objectively. They'll come to it from a position, right? Whereas with science fiction, we're like, you know what? Like nothing that's going on in the real world is relevant here. I'm creating this new story so that we kind of all come to it with new eyes. You kind of come to this world as a baby comes into the world, like, just like what's going on, trying to make sense of things, right? And I think the power of science fiction is that it allows us to explore real world issues that we're wrestling with today, but allows us to come to it with a newer perspective, or like a baby's perspective. Like I'm coming to this with no preconceived notions, and you're all of a sudden willing to learn and see things, right? So I think that's the power of science fiction. So yeah, creating a world that's compelling, right? Like it's a futuristic world. I have AI in it. There's like semi-sentient AI. And like one of the big problems in this world is like if AI goes sentient, it can be like super dangerous for the world. So there's that aspect, and we kind of explore that aspect, which allows us to, as I say, to think and conceptualize of future things that we might be dealing with and how might we deal with them. And then also like how do I make it resonate? Like almost um, almost every scenario I have in the story about what's going on with the world. Like the characters make their own decisions or character decisions, but the scenario of like what's happening in the society and what's one side doing to the other side is drawn from like contemporary history. Like I didn't have to make any like what's one side doing to the other side. I didn't have to make any of that up. Like I just I love learning about the world and history and nonfiction and stuff like that. And all the events that kind of happen have happened somewhere in the world, like in the last 50 to 70 years, and in some cases in the last 5 or 10 years, right? So like, how do you make it resonate? Like all this stuff is actually happening. Like it's not. Like it's not like I'm not just sitting there making stuff up. Like that's like this actually happened, and I'm going to adapt it to this modern setting, and this actually happened over here, and I'm going to adapt it to this modern setting. And these are the types of things that sides will do to each other as they're trying to control the narrative. And so yeah, how do I? Yeah, I think your question was like, how do I create this and resonate it? Like a lot of it is built on the truth of what actually happens. So it gives you, I think, that reality, that grim reality. Like I think you read it and you're like, yeah, this is
Perfect. Yeah,
feels genuine, right?
perfect. At this time, sir, please tell us where do we go after the show to learn more about you and to buy your
Okay.
books. Where do we go?
Yeah, probably the easiest first stop would be my website, bradanderson2000.com. I'm the 2000th one. So bradanderson2000.com. Go to that website. It'll have links to my social media. It'll have links to all the books that I have that you can buy. So that's probably a good one. That's probably a good starting point. You can also find AShme Song on Amazon or wherever you buy your books. You can find the book AShme Song. But if you can't remember the name of the book, just bradanderson2000.com will do the trick.
Outstanding. You're very passionate about your writing. You're very passionate about getting the word out. You're very visionary. You're very creative. Have you thought about putting some of your stuff on Hulu, Netflix, stuff like that? Because I think it'd be great. Because there's so much scientific stuff on TV, and when I have some downtime, I want to sit and kind of binge and stuff. Most of the time, I'm binge watching scientific stuff. Is that
Yeah.
something that interests you that could
Oh,
possibly happen?
I would love it. I would to get it on Netflix. I probably need. I'm not a movie mogul and stuff like that. But hey, if anybody makes movies and you're interested, I would be more than happy to. I would be more than happy to help out with that. Yeah. Oh, I'd love that. Right now, so my art is writing, so that's kind of what I do. But I'd absolutely be open. I think a lot of the stories that I write would make like they'd be great visually on the screen as well. I think. Of course, I think that.
Because we do have channels on Roku, so we'll put some blurbs out there for you and stuff like that because this
Perfect.
would be great to kind of following. Again, I get in the habit on weekends when I have some downtime, and most of the things I turn to is science fiction stuff. So yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, can you describe a moment in the writing when you felt like the book took a life of its own, where it's like, oh,
Yeah.
geez, this is going. Because
Oh,
because I know me, I get writer's block, and it's like, oh, I got read through this. But then you start flowing real nice. Did you get a point where your book took a life of its own and just start going?
yeah. For me, for this book here, I think it was sort of the as we're getting as we're getting into the climax, right? Because there, like it's fun. It's like everything's coming together. Everything's coming together. Everybody's kind of in the same place, and all of a sudden, I found it was almost like the story had already been written. I just had to like physically put the words on the paper, right? It just flowed after that, right? So yeah, through the story, like the characters are doing their own thing, and they're all kind of they're all separate. They're all doing their own thing, but all of a sudden, like all the paths lead together, and as soon as all the paths led together, like the last quarter, 20% of of the book just just flowed out of there, right? It was, yeah.
You are a professor. You got a family. You got a puppy. You're very busy, but you're also very busy in writing. So right now, I'll put you you're in a lecture hall. You're talking to new authors, trying to put it all together. How to sit there and make time for it. So we all got 24 hours. We got to make time. How does Dr. Anderson make time to get creative and do what you have to do in the course of your career and writing the books? How do you do it?
Yeah. There's there's no magic there's no magic answer to it. You just do it. A bit of advice. So I got this. I know I heard this years ago, and I don't know who to attribute this quote to, but it's not mine. But I heard it somewhere. I picked it up. It resonated with me, right? And it's the speaker. They said like the human brain is this phenomenal tool. Like it'll answer any question that you ask. It might not always be the right answer, but whatever question you ask it is going to find an answer for it, right? That's what the brain does. Now, most people ask their brain the wrong question. They ask their brain or questions. Should I do this or should I do that, right? Should I become an accountant or a drummer for a heavy metal band, right? And then your brain, if that's what you ask your brain, it does a cost benefit, and like, of course, I should be a heavy metal drummer, right? The secret, though, is instead of asking your brain or questions, you need to ask it and questions. How can I be an accountant and a heavy metal drummer for a band? And if you ask your brain that question, that's the question that it'll solve. And so you're like, oh, how do I have a full-time job and be a writer, right? And then okay, you ask your brain that and it'll figure that, oh, okay, yeah, I'll just, I'll block off this time, like your brain comes up with the answer to that. So I found that the secret to achieve, like a lot of the things that I work full time and I got my doctorate while I was working full time, and I published my first book while I was getting my doctorate while I was working full time. And it's like and questions, right?
Yes.
It's like, how do I do this and this? And how do I do that on top of that? And you just, like, your brain figures it out.
That was what you just said about and is the prerequisite of or the pre-stages of AI, and you didn't know it. If you do the prompt with AI, boom, that's how it breaks it down. So good for you. Yeah, before AI became the big thing, you're already doing that. So there you go.
And how do I do this and this and this? Yeah,
that's great. Okay, how do you ensure that your characters' emotional struggles resonate with the readers? So we're reading a book, and how do you kind of ensure that it really resonates with Hollis, your characters, and how Hollis can get into it, how Hollis can really enjoy and share what you vision? How can I get there to a point where, okay, Dr. Anderson wants this to be like this. So how do you write it where Hollis can really enjoy that as well?
Yeah. I a couple approaches. One, I mean, the character should be like a real person, right? So like real motivations, like real human motivations, right? And it's like family, safety, trying to do better in the world. So they're driven by like just for me, like I focus on like normal people, right? Just the normal people. In huge situations, right? And I kind of think like, how do other people? So part of it is just a keen observation of human nature, like just watching human nature over the years and sort of having that insight. How do people like what's important to them? What are the stakes that matter to people, and sort of incorporating that in. And then I also try to, I feel that I am good at creating worlds or creating scenarios where there isn't necessarily a clear right or wrong. Like with AShme's song, like, is it right to stand up and fight or to take your family and run? Like you can argue both sides, and I think what makes it compelling is that is a hard question to answer, and the character is faced with figuring out their answer to it, and the story is like, how do I, like things happen, and I think trying to create compelling scenarios where there isn't a clear answer at like what's the right answer is unknown, and it's just there's trade-offs, and it's like how do you fuddle through that. And I think that's a very real, like that's I don't know, that's like a life. That's, I don't know about your life, but that's my life. Like, and how do we sort of muddle through that? I think that's compelling, and so I try to create that with my characters, and so I think that's how I try to make characters
Perfect.
that resonate.
Hey, do you have your book in front of you? Why don't you show it in front of the camera? People say, okay, perfect, right there. Okay,
AShme's song.
AShme's song, great title. Did you design the cover? How did the cover come about?
So the publisher worked with this artist. His name is Dan O'Driscoll. He's a fantastic book cover artist. He did this one. He did a previous book that I had published as well. So yeah, it was the publisher. I have zero artistic ability. Yeah, that was
Before
the
we do the
artist.
final comments, so please tell us again where we go after this show to learn more about you and buy your book. Where do we go?
You betcha. BradAnderson2000.com. That'll get you to me.
Perfect. Final comment. In what ways do you hope your book spurs reflection or action among readers? So in closing, kind of really pat us, get us out there, get us going. What do you expect the readers to get from your book?
All right. So I think at the end of the book, I sort of make this comment that you know the antidote to hate isn't love. The antidote to hate is understanding, right? If you truly, like, it is really really hard to hate someone if you understand how they got to where they are. Like, if you truly understand how they got to where they are, all of a sudden hate becomes really really hard, right? they may still be your enemy. Like you might still like we can't be friends, but I understand where you're coming from, and that I think makes it really hard to hate, and it changes the dynamic. So I would love for people by the time they get to the end of the story, if they kind of recognize that, like people aren't most people aren't evil. Most people aren't bad. There's circumstances that led them to being on the other side of a conflict, and they're human and they're people. And if you went through those circumstances, things might have been different for you too. And I think if you can sort of walk away from the story just having that insight or just having those thoughts, is that true, clinking around in your head? I think I would be thrilled with that.
Dr. Brad C. Anderson, thank you very much for joining us, sir. Let me give you a little standing ovation. Thank you very much. Come on back anytime. Good luck with your latest book. And again, come on back. We'll share another story. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Hollis.
All right. Bye-bye.
Authors and small business owners, turn your book and/or your business into a streaming television brand. You wrote the book, you built the business. Now it's time to be seen on Roku and Amazon Fire Television. The Hollis Chapman Show helps authors and small business owners get featured on a professionally produced TV show, appear on Roku and Amazon Fire Television streaming platforms, build authority and credibility, reach new audiences beyond social media, receive in-house marketing support. This isn't just an interview. This is brand positioning. If you're serious about in 2026, let's put your brand on television. AShme now for a featured television plus podcast spotlight. Book your strategy email today.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you. Bye-bye.
You betcha. Thank you very much for having me. Really appreciate it. And good luck.
Awesome. Bye-bye, sir.